Ohio is becoming a big mess for Republicans. Not only is their United States Senate race becoming highly competitive and a race that Republicans are having to put a lot of money into to try and keep red, there's also a lot else going on. The governor's race with Vivek Ramaswamy as the Republican nominee facing Amy Acton is ultimately very competitive as well, where Vivek Ramaswamy has the risk of losing this race as a Republican in the state of Ohio. And finally, most recently, House of Representatives member Max Miller is accused of abusing his ex-girlfriend who happens to be, or his ex-wife, my apologies, who happens to be Emily Marino, who is the daughter of Senator Bernie Marino in the state of Ohio. And there's been calls for him to drop out of this race for Ohio's 7th Congressional District on the national level going into the 2026 midterms. Ultimately, so far, he's declined to do so. That's putting Republicans at a real risk of losing another House seat that they can't afford to lose in the 2026 midterms. So, with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at all the information here that this Axios report that I had pulled up has in it, but just a narrow summary of it really is right here. Everything going on with Max Miller is the first, the second is the Senate race, and the third is the governor's race. All three of these going to be very interesting to see how everything plays out. If Miller decides to stay in this race on the national level on the House side, Democrats really have an opportunity to flip this House seat, which could be very key in a already slim majority, expected to be very slim as well, given the redistricting efforts across the nation. Democrats still have an uphill battle to control the House of Representatives, but ultimately, situations like this really help Democrats. Second is that Senate race, where former Senator Sherrod Brown is running against appointed Senator Jon Husted, who was appointed to that seat when J.D. Vance became the vice president at the beginning of last year. So ultimately, this is a dead heat race where Senator Sherrod Brown, in some polling, is slightly ahead. Sometimes Jon Husted is slightly ahead, but overall, private polling is saying that this race is a dead heat, which is really concerning for Republicans across the state, considering that they flipped this race, or they flipped a seat that Senator Brown had just 2 years ago for him to be back on the ballot, and ultimately being given a tough race for Republicans to win. Not such a good sign for them there. And then that governor's race that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, a very big development there. Vivek Ramaswamy, former presidential candidate, is running against Amy Acton and is having a hard time in this race. Still, in some polling and some averages, still expected to win, but overall, very concerning for Republicans on that in the governor's race as well. So with that said, let's take a look at some polling. Let's start with the Ohio governor's race, since we just left off of that. In the latest New York Times poll, which was conducted the middle of June to the end of June, June 15th through the 28th, had this race as dead even, with Vivek Ramaswamy sitting at about 47% to Amy Acton, the same, 47%. We haven't seen any real reliable polling done on this race since, and ultimately, same goes for the Senate race as well. If we go over and flip over to the Senate race, that was also the last time that we've seen a key poll in this race was back in June. And Husted was ultimately up in that one, leading with 50% of the vote to Sherrod Brown's 47% of the vote. So significant nonetheless, but really concerning that we haven't seen polling. We would expect in key races like this to see more public polling, and ultimately we've not seen that as of the time that I'm filming this. At least that could change any moment, really. But as of this moment, we're still looking at that polling that was conducted in June, and overall, close races. Vivek Ramaswamy actually closer than that Senate race back in June, but arguably I would say that there's a high chance that if polling was conducted today, this race for the Senate would be even closer. Also important to take a look at is this House race with Ohio's 7th district. Max Miller already narrowly favored to win, probability about 55.3% of the vote and 44.7% for that of his Democratic opponent. Ultimately, this race has slimmed up in the past few days and only continues to do so. Democrats going to ultimately cross over and be ahead if this pattern continues in the next few days. Really, we would expect, given the traditional baseline of this, August 2nd leading by a couple percentage points, and now 1 day later only a percentage point lead for him. So ultimately, if that continues, Max Miller on a downhill climb for this House race in the general election. Ultimately, a very key House race, one that Republicans do not want to risk losing, but if he decides to not get out, that may just be the case, especially if we look at the poly market betting odds as of this moment. My apologies for the on-screen there. But ultimately, at this moment, Democrats are favored to win this 62% to Republicans 36%. Very key in this as well, because if we go back, Republicans had been in the lead for this race most of the time. I mean, July 13th even, 58%. But here in the past few days, that switched over to the Democrats sitting at about a 62% chance of victory in this House race. So, very, very important and very concerning for Republicans across the state of Ohio and across the nation, really, because if Republicans lose this race, it's another key House race that they can't afford to lose in what's expected to be a Democratic wave year. With that all said, let's close out the video by talking about the Republicans' chance at the Senate and the governor's race according to VoteHub. So as you guys know, I use this site a lot. Very thankful for the averages and being able to really look at the information here on a very very specific based and easy to navigate one place for pretty much everything. They have the House, they have the Senate, they have the governor. So in the Senate race, Sherrod Brown ultimately at this moment has about a 51.1% chance of winning. So slightly favored to win this race against Sherrod Brown with about 0.2% margin of victory there. But if you go and you click on the race itself, it's going to tell you that this is a complete toss-up, because it is. This race is going to be incredibly close, and Republicans should be worried about this race. If they lose this race, it's another key chip away for Democrats to control the United States Senate after the 2026 midterms. So Democrats throwing a lot of money here, having an opportunity with someone like Sherrod Brown, who arguably might be the only Democrat who really can win on this national level in a high-profile race like this anymore. We'll have to see with this governor's race if that's still possible on that level as well. But ultimately, Sherrod Brown, a strong candidate, probabilities showing that he has an opportunity to win this race in the 2026 midterms, which is extremely important for Democrats to win this race to control the United States Senate. So also let's take a look at the governor's race, which will tell you that Vivek Ramaswamy has about a 50.8% chance of winning at this moment. Of course, things change often on here, but that's an even slimmer chance than currently Sherrod Brown sits at. 0.2% victory for Vivek Ramaswamy is what's currently predicted, and it's also going to tell you that this race is a complete toss-up. If we look at the probability odds, 49.2% chance for Amy Acton, Vivek Ramaswamy sitting about 50.8%. If you go over to the vote share, Democrats and Republicans sitting at about 0.2% difference. So very, very close race. And ultimately, I think that might just be what happens here. We have close races on the national level, on the statewide level, I should say, seeing races very close on the governor's race, the Senate race, and then this House race with Max Miller ultimately having an opportunity for Democrats to flip that race. A very bad environment for Democrats on the national level, looking like a very bad year for, very bad year for Republicans. My apologies, I just realized I misspoke there. A very bad year for Republicans on the national level, and ultimately that might carry in to states like Ohio. And then these scandals that are happening in Ohio's 7th Congressional District also not helping Republicans on that level either. Already in a key battle to control the United States House of Representatives after the 2026 midterms. These situations aren't helping them even a little bit. They're actually hurting them Democrats having an opportunity really here to have really big wins, not only on the statewide level, but even in some House races that maybe previously weren't expected to go to Democrats. So with that said, let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you guys believe that Max Miller can pull this race off for the House of Representatives, or do you believe that it's going to be filled with continued scandals, that he's not going to drop out, and that it's going to ultimately result in a Democrat winning that race? Also, let me know what you think about this governor and Senate race on Ohio and the statewide level. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you guys believe Democrats win these races, or do you believe that Republicans hold on to them? I'd love to read through your comments and see what you guys are thinking as well. With that said, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys again so much for watching.